Yeah. We're waiting for him. He said he'll be 5 minutes late. बाहर जाके बोलो last time session. Yeah, he's coming 2 minutes late. No, 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 no. Yeah, then ठीक है उसके बाद ग्रुप पिक्चर लेंगे वैसे भी. Yeah. Okay. ठीक है, we'll start now. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session on Sovereign AI for India. Before we begin the panel discussion, again, we are happy to announce that there will be a launch of the Sovereign AI Research Report by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. May I invite the following representatives to kindly join us on stage first for the release of the report. From Amrita, we would like to invite Pro Vice Chancellor Dr. Manisha V. Ramesh. If available, Head of the AI Safety Research Lab, Dr. Shiva Ramakrishnan, and any other representatives from Amrita that you would like to invite on stage, sir? All right. All right, Professor Suresh, and if we could please have you on stage. I would like to invite Mr. Ankit Bose, Head NASCOM AI, on stage as well. We will. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. You can take a seat, sir, if you. Thank you, everyone. We now move into the panel discussion. To guide this conversation, we are joined by Mr. Ankit Bose, Head NASCOM AI. Joining him today are our distinguished panelists, Professor Ganesh Ramakrishnan from IT Bombay and Bharat Jain, Mr. Sunil Gupta, co-founder, MD and CEO of Yota, Mr. Bhaskar Gorte. Okay. Mr. Bhaskar Gorti, EVP Tata Communications, Mr. Kalyan Kumar, CPO HCL Software, and Mr. Breno Mello, founding GTM executive Genspark. Ankit, over to you. Professor Ganesh will be shortly joining us in 2 minutes.
We have been seeing the chaos on the traffic, so we stuck in PC. So hi everyone. I think we had a good launch and we have a very strong panel. So Ganesh was on the way and he's still stuck on the traffic. He's walking in. So meanwhile we start the discussion. I think happy to have a very strong panel. So why don't we do this? We start with the introduction, right? I think Kalyan, we can start with your quick introduction. Sunil and then Breno.
Yeah, hi, Kalyan Kumar. Call me KK. I run the software product business for HCL Software. We are the largest India-headquartered enterprise B2B software company with about 10,000 customers and about $1.5 billion of revenue, and very intricately involved in building software products which are sovereign by design.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sunil Gupta. I'm co-founder and CEO of Yota. So we run data center campuses. We have built sovereign cloud in India, which is running a whole lot of mission critical Government of India's applications. Recently, we migrated Bhashini from a hyperscale cloud to our sovereign cloud. Our claim to fame in the last 2 years is that we have got thousands of NVIDIA GPU chips in India, and all the models which you are hearing getting launched in this summit, Sarvam model, IIT Bombay's Bharat Gen model or Socket model, they all have been trained on our GPU clusters, and now they are being made available to public use. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Brennan Mello. I work for GenSpark.ai, Palo Alto-based company. We've been around for about 10 months. We are the largest growing AI company right now in the world. We just broke $200 million in ARR. Our solution has been incredibly well adopted in the market. India is our third largest market, and our solutions here to drive adoption from the bottom up by bringing agentic AI to the knowledge worker. Thanks for letting me be here.
Great. And hi folks, I'm Ankit Bose, I head AI for NASSCOM. So whatever NASSCOM does in AI, something I support that, I lead that, right? And we will be joined by Ganesh, who's from Bharat Gen. He's leading the sovereign AI model building effort in the country, right? So I think meanwhile you joined, let's start. I think Sunil, let me start with you, right? The first question I think I would want to ask after 5 days of immense brainstorming around AI for the country, AI for the world, right? What is the top thing you say which India has to do, right, to build its sovereign capability, not only for the country plus for the global south?
Yeah. Ankit, if I take everybody just 2 years or maybe 2.5 years down the line, when ChatGPT got on world scene, basically AI capability came in consumer hands. A big debate happened in India's, obviously, government circle, industry circle, telecom circle, technology circles everywhere, that while India has got everything which is needed to succeed in AI, like we have been software and services leaders for last 3 decades. We have a startup ecosystem. On skill set index of mathematics, science, engineering, we are always the best. As a market, we are literally close to 1 billion people carrying smartphones, creating, consuming content. AI ultimately will result into most of the cases, some apps which will be giving some productivity to us. So both on the demand side as well as supply side, including data sets, like India will have the best data sets available. So everything India has, but what India was not having at that time was compute. Because AI does not run in regular data centers or regular CPU computes, it requires these specialized GPU computes. So I would say that the biggest problem, and of course you have to take care of the entire stack, models, data sets, applications, everything. But the core problem to solve for taking AI to the masses was that how do you make compute available in an abundant way so that we don't think of that should become just a hygiene which is always available. And that's the problem we tried to solve, way back at that time. Jensen was in India. I happened to get to meet him and he says, we as NVIDIA are too committed to India. We can extend you priority allocation. We can give you engineering support, everything. But somebody has to take a step forward of not only putting your data centers and power and everything, but you also need to put in chips and we will give you everything. And from there to now, today we are running almost 10,000 chips. As I said, majority of the models which you are hearing, sovereign models getting launched in India, they have been trained on our GPUs. But the real thing I would say will start now. Many of these models are great. You must have heard Sarvam model are beating, Gemini and ChatGPT, on many of the benchmarks. And they are making them absolutely for India use cases like OCR, the handwritten notes and all that thing, how do you get converted and all that stuff. So these are real India purpose-built use cases and models. When they start scaling, when they start getting adopted by masses, we have seen one UPI changed our lives. Imagine we have UPI in 50 different sectors in the country. 50 UPI movements will come into India. At that time, the number of GPUs required will be millions. Today we are happy as a country, we have X thousand of GPUs. But if you as a single company like us, SpaceX or like a Meta can have 1 million GPUs, India as a country require multiple million GPUs. So while we are working on all the upper layer of stacks, and Indians are very good at that, models, data sets, applications, we need to solve these infrastructure problems. We are taking care of railways and roadways and airports. We also need to create this digital infrastructure. We take care of that, make it available abundantly to every startup, every I would say academic community. We make it available at a very low price. Government India AI mission is doing a yeoman's role. On one side, they have asked people like us, incentivized us to invest into these GPUs, but they are taking GPUs from us, putting their own money, putting their own subsidy, and then giving it to servums and IITs and sockets of the world. And they think now you don't have to bother about money, just go and make India's specific model. And the result is to see in 2 years, India has come a long way, and we have a long way to go. Compute problem has to be solved.
Great. Thank you, Sunil. Same question to you, KK. What is the one thing you feel can add the edge, right? The whole.
See, when you look at sovereign, and I think Minister of Electronics and IT, Vaishnavji, he was mentioning talking the 5 layer stack, right? And that's where, what Sunil mentioned is, for an easier way, I use the word infrastructure, which can combine energy or the ping power, cooling the whole stack. So that's providing that layer. And then explain the whole model piece. I think as you train and when you start to deploy at scale, a couple of things are becoming very interesting. So you need to start to also build a data stack, data platforms, vector DBs, edge vector. I personally think you can do as much centralization. The way the data consumption model is going, it's going to highly get distributed, going to go down into the edge, correct? So you need a very different kind of inferencing and those capabilities. So you need a data layer. Something which we are doing is very interesting. Outside of Oracle and IBM, the only other company which has all the patents for databases is HCL, because we acquired Actian.
Yeah.
So Actian owns the original patent of Ingress. And every derivative today, whether it is Postgres or every one of them, is basically an Ingress query processor derivative, including SQL Server and others. Like that, we also acquired an asset from CWI in Netherlands. So we have a vector DB with the original vector engine. So we've been building a lot of those asset portfolio, Edge DB. We're now releasing in April, we're going to release a localized vector AI engine, which again can run on, because as the AI PCs become more and more, Edge becomes more and more, so building that. And building the data discipline. So I think that's a very important layer. A lot of times what happens is we worry about infrastructure, and then we think about model, and then app. The data platform is going to become very important, because enterprise will only scale if you get your data-centric approach, data products, data contracts, data catalogs, and those kind of things. Right? Because finally the AI use case is going to be built on how good quality your data is.
Yeah. Great point. I think compute, data stack for the country, I think very important. Let me come to Breno. Breno, again, the same question, right? If India have to build a sovereign AI for the country and global south, what's the top one thing you will say which will, help the whole cause?
Yeah, so it's interesting. MIT last year ran a big report, and they said 95% of AI pilots actually never made it to real production, right? So in my point of view, this is never really a tech problem. It's really a production problem, right? So in my point of view, actually, like when I look at our solution, right, like we are able to deploy over 1,000 companies in only 8 weeks, right?
Wow.
So when I look at that, there's really, it comes down to 3 reasons why this is happening in the industry, right? And the first one is what I call ROI invisibility, right? So when you look at companies right now, it's really easy to get budget for a pilot, right? So, but when it comes to the reality is, can they get a budget to get the project done, right? So the data that I have to show you guys, which is astonishing, is a third of CFOs really nowadays they cannot quantify AI ROI inside of the organizations, right? And only 1 out of 10 can actually have tools that can actually measure ROI, right? So what that ended up happening is whenever you talk to those organizations, right, companies, and you ask like, how are you actually going to measure productivity gains, or how are you going to like, they don't have the answer, right? Like, so it ends up like, what's the baseline? Like, they don't have the answer, right? So whenever you bring to like the CFO to get that project approval, ends up on the project never getting approved, and ends up on that cycle of like, it ends up getting stuck into a pilot, right? So when you look at what, number two is like, I think it's data and trust and compliance friction, right? I think there's a huge red tape in terms of what happens inside of organizations, right? I think that it's very departmentalized, where like each part of the organization is trying to solve for each part of the department, right? So when I look at IT, it's trying to solve for IT, procurement is trying to solve for procurement. So because no one's really trying to solve as an organization, like the project kind of ends up stalling, right? So something that can essentially take like a few months to resolve ends up taking 6 months to a year, right? And like I say in sales, like time kills every deal, right? So last but not least, right? I think my third point is the champion problem, right? Like I think there's a severe issue with like within organizations nowadays is there's really no executive sponsorship. And then whenever you don't have executive sponsorship, especially for AI opportunities, right, deals never get approved, and people, especially at the bottom tier, they don't understand what's going on, and when there's no clear alignment within the middle tier management, deals never really progress.
Great. I think let me summarize probably the 3 points that you need a close collaborated teams, right, with a single point of view with executive sponsorship. I think that will solve the adoption piece at least at last, right? Let me come to you, Professor Ganesh, right? Ganesh, I think what we are discussing is so we've discussed a lot on AI for the last 5 days for India, for Globe, and then we had 3 point of views. I asked them, give me one top thing. You heard probably from Breno and KK, and then from Sunil was compute. What is that your top one take which India should do so that we can lead the servant race for the country and the globe?
I would suggest interoperability at every layer. I think it is also alluded to by earlier panelists. Because interoperability encourages participation, and in the words of our PSA, if you were there in our Bharat Gen session, he said meaningful participation, right? Interoperability also helps you present alternatives, because there's no one size fits all, and you need to also ensure that in the trade-off between fidelity, right, and latency, or between sensitivity and specificity, you're able to find that right sweet spot, which is suitable for you. You can pick something that is appropriate. I just, on a lighter note, I was driving from the PSA office, and there's such traffic jam, which most of you experience. So I exercised my sovereignty and I started walking. So you find alternatives when you think sovereign, right? 3 kilometers, that's why I was late. So there are alternatives, and that also provisions for human participation much better. There could be places where AI could be substitutional, but many other places where you may want it to be just supplementary or complementary. So alternatives is another thing that interoperability provides for. And I think the very key is scale out. If by scaling up we could cater to everyone, great. I would say that at least matches one checkbox, which is people being catered to, right? But even we are not there. Scaling up is not going to cater, right? The capability isn't there. But even if it were hypothetically, I think participation would also ensure that people are part of the process. It's informed. I mean, Bharat Gen, I take pride in one of our consortium members at IIM Indore. We are a consortium of 9 academic institutions. And Indian Institute of Management, what are they doing, right? They do a fabulous job in going to many of the second-tier cities, going to people who have data, and engage in conversations, education, right? That data is an asset, and you could actually transform that asset into IP generation. and not just source data. So the dialogue, right, and informed decision making is where participation is encouraged when you have interoperability.
I just want to add just what he said. He made a very interesting point. How do you monetize data, correct? And this is something which needs a very different approach, because today what happens is you are sourcing data, and I think PM yesterday made a very amazing statement, correct? He's saying, "Jiska data, uska adhikar," correct? Very, very interesting.
Yes.
But if you look at what he's saying, is the creator of the data, the producer of the data, the consent provider for the use, all have a role to play, and that's where I've been using this word called data product or a data catalog. So you need to catalog first, then you need to build a data product, and then set up a data contract, which is the fundamental for interoperability. I just wanted to add, because if that gets solved,
absolutely,
I can choose my own personal data and say my data catalog, you can have 5 things to access. I think India has proven that amazing way of identity payments. So I think we can actually set up an environment where you can really build this.
Yeah. And the data benefactor is also the same person, right? So great point, Professor. I think interoperability means definitely, removing or optimizing the various layers and taking it to the last, person in the rank, right? And it will help scale to the 1.4 billion what we need, right? I think, thank you for that. Let me ask you again a second question, right? I think this is a very, very direct question, right? I think as country, I think we are building our foundation models. You are one of the, person who is building foundation models of the country. And you have, and as at large, we have built sub 500 billion parameter model. And globally, we are going to 5 trillion, right? Or plus. The comparison is so huge, right? What do you think India's moat can be when we are really, in such a situation where we are at a disadvantage, though we have to aggressively, handle that?
Yeah. So the other important takeaway, which probably, addresses some part of what you're saying, what you're asking, is cooperation, right? Collaboration. Collaboration, honestly, is not just a transactional process. It begins here, right? The will to understand the other side. Just published a book, Informatics and AI for Healthcare. This was with my colleague Kshitij Jadhav. And what we did in the entire book was I empathize with all the entire life cycle of a healthcare practitioner. And we tried to map every ML example, informatic example, parsing to healthcare, right? And vice versa. There was reciprocation from the other side as well. It was a very, very interesting exercise. I think that's how core design also happens. So collaboration is actually to do innovation. And again, China has shown in many ways, right, in contrast to the US ecosystem, that core design can lead to very innovative ideas. And core design often is even lacking at the level of algorithms and infra and architecture, right? Right there, new algorithms can come up, but all the way to application layers. So collaboration also comes by creating ecosystem where people can participate. Since you alluded again to Bharat, we have a consortium of 9 academic institutions, and the whole collaboration is through a Section 8 company, a not-for-profit company, which engages with for-profit entities, but also the academic institutions. The 60 full-time employees work with 100 plus researchers, master student. It's been a very profound exercise in a very short span of time. I mean, we may say we are late now, since you brought up also the landscape outside, which is 1 trillion plus parameters, and that's also our North Star, at least from the India AI mission. That is our goal, to get to at least 1 trillion parameters. But even the 17 billion parameter model that we have released, there's a lot of research, due diligence that has gone into the architecture choice, and actually we are very proud of whatever model we released, because ensuring that, if you have 2 shared experts, one of them is actually catering to languages and mixed code, the other is catering to domain. Due diligence that was actually done based on the Indian context, right? The fact that we cover 22 languages. In our speech model, like the text-to-speech model, again, all of that is released. We explicitly captured the common phonetic vocabulary of Indian languages. And that's only possible through this process of empathy. I mean, a linguist has to empathize with the computer scientist and vice versa. If you do that, we can actually create magic. Believe me, you can create magic. We just have to break our silos, and the biggest silo is sitting here. I mean, in fact, an endorsement to this was when we actually built our LLM-enabled speech-to-text model. We had a projector layer which actually projected from speech to text. And we used a mixture of experts, right, for the projection. It was very interesting. The expert for Hindi and Marathi performed very similarly. I mean, there was the same expert. Expert got shared. Whereas for Telugu, there was collaboration between Hindi and Tamil experts. So, data, domain knowledge, all of them actually are, reinforcing each other. So, this is actually a time where we can break the language barrier. In my interaction with the Honorable PM on 8th Jan, I gifted him a book from our consortium called Samanvay. Samanvay stands for, bringing all languages together. And he said, we need to use AI also to show the strength of India. It's not just AI for India, but AI by India.
Great. I think the point of collaboration, right? And the story what we all have heard, right? Single stick versus a bunch of sticks, right? I think it is very true, and that's what is a moat for India. Collaboration, building that collaborative effort between different universities, bringing 9 different universities together to work, right? And it's a gigantic work, right? And the best what you've created is amazing, right?
Also, we are very happy that 3 days back we also announced an MOU with our Heritage Foundation sitting in the US. We've got a lot of support from people in the Bay Area. So once you open up for collaboration, you'll find there's support from around the world. That is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Great. Thank you, Professor Ganesh. So let me come to Sunil, you, right? I think we all agree that, compute is one of the biggest player and pillar, right? And then government is doing their bit, right? I think they're doing their bit. But again, I think in terms of compute for the country, for sovereignty, can it be a shared commodity? Can it be, some commodity which different, factors of the country or probably ecosystem come together and build, right? Well, how to solve that problem? Because as you rightly said, few thousands versus few lakhs, right? That's something, very high.
I would say that is the framework which India AI mission has adopted. See, again coming back, then 2 years back when government was thinking about how to go about solving this problem. Hello? Yeah. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. So, government had got 3 pass options available with them. One is, government intervenes, I will build the data center myself, I will procure GPUs, and I will basically serve the rest of the country completely. It's the UPI model, right? UPI is completely supported by government-owned infrastructure, right? Second model was American model. Leave it to private sector, leave it to capitalist economy. Private sector forces will make the supply and demand match. People will invest, people will consume. Government should only act as a regulator. What government did was they adopted the middle paths, where government said, we are not good at that. This is technology, this is complex, it requires service mindset, it requires lots of tools. Let private sector invest into this, and not 1 or 2. They said we'll have tens of people, right? Tens of people can invest into this, what you're talking about, shared compute facility. Government will obviously act as a gatekeeper, that you should have good quality, you should put the right price for this. You invest into these services. Government, but at the same time, made sure that if we are investing millions of dollars, government assured us that they will take up these GPUs on cloud from us at a defined price, so that our business models become feasible, because I also have to raise money from a bank or from a private equity. And then government said, I will take it to IITs, I will take it to startups, and we will give these GPUs to them, that you don't bother about compute, you get into what you are supposed to do, which is actually building India's sovereign models. So this model is so democratic, and what government also did, that's why I always keep on saying this India mission thought and framework should be, we can export the thought itself to 40 countries, not just the what we have done, but the thought itself is very innovative. Because number one, they said you all come and panel with us at a right price point, right quality, and you declare how much GPUs you can give. They were not forcing us. They said, okay, you decide how much you want to give. We all got empaneled. We contributed to GPUs, which were made available to startups. Then government said, every quarter we will come and we'll encourage new and new providers to come up with the facility, and even existing players can also top up their capacities. And every next time, because the market forces, when the quantity start increasing, supply start increasing, the pricing also will start reducing. Government say, okay, if new player comes, they can reduce the price, existing players will have to match. And they keep on empaneling more and more capacity. And that is something which has resulted into that 38,000 GPUs which government is talking about, the shared compute facility, which is nothing but a, you can say, combination of the compute capacity created by multiple providers like us. And now yesterday Prime Minister announced that 20,000 more are being added to this facility. So I would say, both as a concept, this is proven that last 18 months is doable, and both as a technology, right? While technically it's possible that the same model can get trained, like, and Ganeshji I'm sure can talk very authoritatively on this subject. Technically also, you can train on multiple different clusters. Of course, inferencing you can do in multiple different places. But even if you don't do that, you are actually, what government did very democratically, okay, IIT, we will put you into this service provider. Okay, Sarvam will put you into this service provider. Okay, GAN will put you into this provider. So government is democratically making sure that they are encouraging industry to invest into this, creating this capability which is required. And we, because we are getting business, we are scaling up now. We are investing more and more now. And then they are making it available to people, because India needs its own models. We may use frontier models for certain purposes, but as Minister was saying that 95% of the use cases of the country can very well be done by a 20 billion to 100 billion parameter model, right? Of course, Ganeshji is carrying a mandate to create a trillion parameter model also, and which country require, and as much sovereign we can for all those things, why anybody else can do, right? Their success, Bharat Jan's success and Sarvam's success has proven that India can do it, right? So I would say that shared compute framework which has been done, it is proven. We just need to scale it up. And my request to government, which I think they are doing, is don't limit it only for training of models, because models training is one step done. Now these models will be going to masses for adoption, and you'll require millions of GPUs. I think I'm repeating myself, but that is where government need to fund the first cycle of inferencing on these models. When users start adopting, let's say, agriculture use case or a healthcare use case or a education use case or whichever use case which come out, multiple UPI equivalent use cases will come up. It will take time for users to start adopting it, start accepting it, making it a part of their lives. At that time, probably user will be happy to pay 10 paisa per transaction, or maybe a 50 rupees per month subscription for that. That time, these models and use cases will become self-sufficient to generate revenue also. Then they will need government support. But at least for, I would say, first cycle of inferencing, maybe 1 year or 2 years, government not only support the funding of the training of the model, but also they support the first phase of inferencing on this model, so that adoption happens, revenue models emerge, and after that government can say, okay, let private sector invest, and government will come back to their original role of regulator.
Great, Sunil. I think probably let me augment and put few more thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. So the India mission has really created the single fire, right?
Yeah.
And this fire is going to every state in the country.
Yes.
All 28 states, all 8 union territories, they are building AI COEs.
Yes.
And the mandate for each COE is to give compute, right?
Yeah.
I think that like in small wildfire, it will spread all across the country. It will be phenomenal. But again, I think at the same time, we have to keep up the pace, right? I think one thing is pace.
Absolutely, Ankit. Just, and this is something which I know 2 years back when we said that I'm putting 8,000 GPUs, everybody started laughing, because we were starting with the base when India was not having any GPUs, right? Today, we comfortably say, okay, India will be going to 50, 60,000 GPUs. But even today, I can tell you, India requires millions of GPUs. In US, just 3 or 4 deep tech companies are collectively owning millions of GPUs. India has got 1.4 billion people, out of which 1 billion people are carrying smartphones, creating, consuming content every single minute. And as Ganeshji will talk about, they all are creating voice-based AI, because India's AI will be voice-based, people talking in their own native language or a mixture of Hindi, English, everything. And they'll be comfortable doing that instead of writing in their native language or screen, which is not so easy. When you're doing that, and actually innovations are being done that even from feature phone or regular telephone line, not using smartphones, you will be able to talk to an AI model at the back end. When you are basically talking about 1.4 billion people coming in the AI fold for multiple use cases, just imagine what type of number of GPUs will be requiring for inferencing and how many GPUs will be requiring for training multiple models for sectoring all these things. So you are right, Ankit. What we have done in last 2 years is kudos to the whole ecosystem, to government and everybody, all of us. But we need to keep on building for next 7, 8, 10 years. Sorry, just to give 1 or 2 more data points. India is creating and consuming 20% of world's data. 1/5 of the world's data is created and consumed by India. Only 3% of that data is hosted in India today. That shows the upscope of the infrastructure, both at a physical data center level and also in terms of the compute or GPU level, India need to build. Because we don't want any single country or any single company start dictating our digital destiny. We need to be as much sovereign as possible.
Correct. Thank you, Sunil. Thank you. Kalyan, let me come to you. So Kalyan, I think one big base for the sovereignty is the skill set, the capability to research, develop, deploy, right? And do all of that responsibly, right? I think SCL being, one of the companies who have done that, right, in the last 2-3 years, what will be your nuggets, right? I think how other companies, other players in the country, other countries can do that, right?
So, if you look at, what is India known for? India is known for capability, historically. NASSCOM, right? But that capability was historically, and for a majority, and most of the business capability for hire. You basically are building capability to build things for others, and that's been the core business. We've now become pretty much, if you really look at, if some other country thinks sovereignty, 50% of their global tech, engineering, services, development, operations talent is sitting out of India. You see those GCC craze. So,
Yes.
But where is the pivot? The pivot is, I think was Professor was talking about, is you have to pivot towards build. We are always been more towards service. So building, research, development, build your own IP, and how do you make India for the world? And I think it's very important. I think that's what our journey has been. So what we did is in 2015-16, because we have one advantage, we are a single majority shareholder run company. Mr. Nadar had a very ambitious vision. He said, we are building products for others, we should start building for yourself. This is 2015. It's a very conscious strategy. And he realized if you want to play in the global market, you need to have access to market permission and market access. Because people would only buy if you are a software product company. So that whole idea of acquiring intellectual property, because if you really start to see the underlying of these pieces, you could build on open source and other stuff, but suddenly what's happening is some of these open source companies are getting acquired and suddenly it's becoming closed sourced. Correct? This is becoming a very interesting plan, and suddenly some of them are getting classified as dual use. Suddenly they'll say, oh, this is dual use tech, so I can only release this. So what we seeing from a skill standpoint, you need lesser, smarter people. So I'm making a very controversial statement. You need lesser people, smarter people. You need engineers more than coders. See, what's happening is that we're building coders. You need engineers, people who think systems thinking. You need people who are research bent. I meet students and I ask MBA students, what did you do? I did engineering. I said, why the hell did you waste 4 years of your life if you wanted to go and do an MBA? The things like, why are you not doing deeper? Why don't you specialize in a domain? But those are things, like even fundamental things. I would say the big leap is going to be, I think India can solve something very interestingly, and as he's referring to the PSA, quantum. Because I think the kind of compute needs you have, and looking at energy GPUs, you could completely change the computational paradigm. So hence, but that needs fundamental science research, physics. Like no one wants to study physics. Like if you go back 20 years back in this country, everyone wanted to go and do coding. So those are the fundamental skills. So what we are doing in a very small way, we are building talent and research pools. So 50% of HCL's software product business is in India, engineering. But my second largest engineering center is in Rome.
Okay.
Third is in Israel. Then I'm in Perth, Austin, Chelmsford outside of Boston. Why? Because like if global companies can come to India and acquire talent to build and research, and then build that IP and take it to US, I'm doing the reverse. So AppScan, which is a code security product, The security heuristics is built in Israel. The SaaS UX is built in Boston, but the core engineering is in Bangalore. But the IP is registered in India. So, which is where we are moving a very different way. We are now tapping global talent to build for us. So we are still $1.5 billion. We are not big, but we've got 130 countries. So we are a step in the change. It's a long journey. It needs to get away from short-term thinking, hire people to get them built. I think you have to go to a very different model. So I think that's what we are starting within the larger scheme of HCL. But I think we're walking the right path. I think we are acquiring assets continuously and going and building that. Thank you.
Great. So let me add probably, what I'm seeing at the skill level, right? I think the persona, at least what NASSCOM is focused on, is a developer, right? And the way we code is changing. So NASSCOM has done concentrated effort to help developers learn the new way of coding, right? Redefine the whole SDLC. As a target, what I have taken, my team has taken, we have taken a target of enabling 150K developers across the country in next 6 months. Make them AI enabled, AI ready. Help them change the whole, or unlearn and learn the new way. I think that's what is one thing, right? But parallelly, I think, which I should make everyone aware, I think there will be announcements sometime soon. But with the mighty and, the education ministry, we are rewriting the whole, technical BTech, MTech, MCA, BCA curriculum, right? I think we are adding more specialization, as rightly said, because we need specialists. We don't need journalists. As an engineer, he studies 48 subjects in 4 years. At the end, what is he specialized on? It is his luck, right? The group he gets, the project he takes, somehow some job he gets, right? So I think that's what we are changing. Soon there will be announcements happening. But again, I think that's what is happening at the background. Coming back to Breno. Breno, you have a product which is so simple. Anyone can use it and build agents through that, right? And get benefited from that. Let me ask you this. I think the one big piece of AI to really be mature and impact is adoption, right? And you started with the 95% project fail or probably don't go to production, right? So if we have to really do adoption at scale, what are the top issues you see, right? And how do you suggest, the companies or folks here can take some pointers to mitigate it in their life function, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you three. One is very specific to India, actually. So and those are relatable to our solution, but I think those are real use cases because the proof is, like I said, the proof is in the pudding, right? One is like you got to solve a real use case, something that is actually changing in people's life. So AI is complex, and AI, people still like trying to figure out AI. So it needs to be something that is into people's everyday's life. So in our case, for example, if let's go back. So if you look at Cursor or Lovable, right? They changed the life of vibe coding, right? Software engineers. In our situation here at GenSpark, we looked at people that were producing office work, right? So people that looking at producing Excel, PowerPoint, and essentially just like any mechanical work on the everyday office work, right? Because if you think about it, every time you at your office desk, all of that office work is very mechanical, right? And that's why we realize all this massive growth in our solution, right? So to your point, I think the adoption comes from like something that is something that can change people's life and something in a very simplistic way, right? I think the second thing needs to be consolidation of tools, right? I think from the time that we wake up in the morning, I think most of us pick up our phones, and we inundated by messages and apps, and then we go to our office work, and then we have probably 100 tools that we have to touch. Actually, we looked at through our research at work, where people waste in average 2.5 hours a day, right? Just flipping between different solutions, right? And that causes loss of context, right? So if there's a way you can consolidate tools, right, that also drives adoption, right? So I think the third one is, especially in India, is the fact that there's a lot of different languages in this country, which you brought up, right? So I think in this country, especially LLMs, I think really struggle with be able to drive the right language, especially with all the different dialects that this country have. So be able to really naturalize and be able to bring the sovereignty here, I think is very important. And I think last but not least, right, people are very scared about data, right? And how the data, that data, once they bring data into AI, how is that data going to be treated, right? So I think the solution needs to bring that sense of security of how that data is going to be managed.
Great, thank you, Breno. I think with the last segment, last question, 30 seconds each, right? Again, probably starting with Breno, since you have the mic, right? So AI is not a short game. It's a game for next 5 years, 10 years, decades, probably century, right? What is the challenge as a humanity we have to mitigate? You feel that we don't align with something which is hazardous to us. 30 seconds.
So I think it's, actually I was having breakfast the other day, and actually the person I was serving asked me the exactly same question. I think that it's how human beings interact with AI. Mm-hmm. I think we're still trying to figure out how to properly interact with AI. And I think that the speed of AI is evolving. I think we're still uncertain how to manage that. I think the line on the sand moves so fast that we can really catch up to that, right? And the interaction of AI and us, no one really knows how to do it yet.
So I'll map the earlier part and this part. A very specific use of AI for self to make your life simpler. Will adopt AI at scale, and we have to build that certain that processes to interact with AI in the long run, because AI is changing, things are changing. Thank you, Breno. Coming back to you, Professor Ganesh, right? Same question, 30 seconds. What's the challenge you see if we make something not aligned?
I think the biggest challenge in not making AI aligned is that we will become products, not even consumers, right? We want to be in the steering wheel. I remember very fondly my first machine translation paper. I called it, machine-assisted human translation. Obviously, I can't. That will sound too regressive. But the key is provenance, right? How can you leave provenance at every step in the stack, whether it's data aggregation, which is again aligned with ecosystem. You need an ecosystem to leave provenance on the data part, whether it's metadata refinement, data curation, provenance at the level of trading, tokenization, provenance at the observability is other keyword, right? At the level of the way the model performs. Models as glass boxes, because that gives you enough breathing space. Where should you actually yield your practices versus existing practices? So I think if you don't have that view, the recipes, if they're not made available, if the education isn't there, as a prof, I always focus on the education part. I think we'll become products.
Great, thank you, Ganesh. Sunil, you, and then Kalyan.
No, I think I concur with the views that at the end of the day, we should not do AI for the sake of doing AI. It is a means to achieve an end purpose, and the end purpose is benefit for the masses. I remember, I think I was seeing on a YouTube video when Prime Minister Sir met all the startups and Professor Ganesh was there. And I think Prime Minister Sir said to everybody, don't create toys. Don't make AI to make toys, right? And use AI which benefits the masses in their real problem which they face in their day-to-day lives. So that is something that is where the name of this event also has come as the Impact Summit, right? And I think yesterday he also used one word that unlike the previous summit where we are too much concerned about security governance, which are things to be done, but at the same time, केवल भय नहीं रखना AI का, AI से आप अपना भाग्य बना सकते हो, अपना भविष्य बना सकते हो. So कैसे AI से how we sort of create an impact, we benefit the masses, and also machine should not end up dictating our lives. As again I will say, we should not end up becoming product itself. as much AI makes improvements, it possibly will never reach a stage where it start acquiring humans' emotions, it start acquiring our sense of gut, it start acquiring our sense of culture, it start acquiring our what we speak, our body language, not just with our words. So I think human in the loop and human remaining the master of AI is something we'll have to guard against all the time.
Yeah. Interaction, don't become product, have human-centric development. Kalyan.
I would say break this into 4 key areas. As Professor mentioned, I think in the consumer AI, so I'm going to break it into consumer, enterprise, government, and critical national infrastructure defense. So the reasons, this all 4s are going to play in just like 10 seconds. Consumer AI, you are the product, unfortunately. You now have to use data control to decide how much of what you give to get. It's a give to get mode, correct, in the consumer AI. Because the day you click I agree on an Android 4 on an Apple Intelligence, suddenly you are the product and you're getting something back. But that give to get balance, and that's where the role of the regulator, in my opinion, has a far more play than in the enterprise. So regulation. Enterprise, God made world in 7 days because he had no installed base. Enterprise CIOs, you go and talk to CIOs on the ground, their reality is that they've got a big problem. Architectural problem, their data landscape is broken, so they have to pivot from process, workflow to data first. Big shift. So they need to start about lineage, metadata. Most of these companies don't have metadata, correct? Metadata discovery, use techniques like knowledge graph to understand the metadata. And then you organize your data so that AI can be benefited. I think the big plays in GovTech, government citizen engagement, G2C, massive. But that's where I think that sovereign AI play comes in, where the work which Sarvam is doing or the whole Bharat Gen, important because that's where you can host citizen services platforms. And the last is for critical national infrastructure, air-gap networks, private AI, and defense. So I think we need to also have a very broken up view of this whole thing rather than trying to have one brush to paint all of them. But I think last is sovereignty is all about choice. Making choice. Like he walked here, it's a great choice. I can run on hyperscaler A, B, I can run on Yota, I can run on SIFI, I can run on any other, or I can run on my own infrastructure. Then I need to have choice of, it's all about choice. And second is, please, AI exists for human good. So put the people back into the center. Human, because we suddenly have made human someone in the side and everything is about AI, correct? It's about people using AI surrounding them. So that's what my thought was.
Great. Thank you, Kalyan. I think we have had a lot of good nuggets from everyone, right? I think we'll continue this conversation after this. As a part of NASSCOM, I think Sovereign AI is a big initiative for us. I think we have been driving it since last 3.5 years. Ganesh knows that. Sunil knows that, right? SCL services companies, we have worked enough with them, right? To keep it on, I think it's not a end point. We have to think about the sovereignty and we have to think about how India builds it, AGI capability, quantum AI capability. I think that's the journey we are on as NASSCOM, right? I think we are writing, a current policy document for government, on sovereign AI and AGI roadmap. And I think the QR code is there. The QR code will be here, and I want all of you to have a look. It's a draft one. Please work on it, right? I think that's that. Yeah, Ganesh?
I mean, the potential is so immense. We have not even scratched the surface, not even the tip of the iceberg we have touched. So sovereignty is critical because the amount of inefficiency in that entire stack needs to be done away with. GPUs were never designed for building these models, right?
Yeah.
It's legacy. And how can we use even the large work we are doing, workload, to actually do better ASIC design? How can we use it to have better model serving engines? Yeah. So there's so much to do. I think everyone should get inquisitive about the entire stack. So that's where sovereignty comes.
Absolutely. I think we are trying to do that in a collaborative way with all our contributors. Please be a collaborator. We will have a QR code and Git repo. Please respond to that. Give your inputs. And with that, thank you to my panelists. I loved it, and I think hope you also loved it.
Thank you again. Thanks. Hey, just one thing I want to just say. Watch on 21st. The PM is inaugurating a new JV which HCL is announcing with Foxconn. It's called India Chips Limited. I would call it a patient capital. It's about 16 and 32 nanometer fab which are creating. Basically, it's like a OSAT unit. It's going to come out after 5 years. It's a long, you have to build the whole thing, but also building that skill, correct?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a big
yeah, yeah.
important thing.
And we have to start now. We cannot wait for 5 years down the line, right? So,
Skill set building for that is another thing. So
sure. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists. I request the panelists just please stay back for a group photo right now. You can also access the report that Ankit has been talking about in the QR code displayed on the digital background before and leave feedback. I'm also happy to announce, thank you to our panelists. I'm also happy to announce an MOU being signed with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham and NASSCOM right now.